Oh, man.
So speaking of, what is your favorite grammar nuance that English has been spoken for forever now, that we've forgotten all about it? So what is your biggest grammar nuance that you enjoy? I'll share you with mine because I have one.
I got it. Okay, so I was deployed as a lieutenant, and I did those deployments that every young man wants to do, which is you deploy with your platoon.
Oh,
right
Speak
to
to me.
Afghanistan. You're like, oh, here we go.
Right.
Then your
never did that.
platoon's broken apart because I was a mortar PL and scattered across FOBs, and I was pulled to be an LNO to Bagram Airfield. So great deployment. Obviously every officer signs up for that one. That was the one. So what I did with my time there, which was valuable. I was value added to the unit, but I also made a compendium of things field grade officers said, and I'm like 3 years in the Army. But this list by a 9-month deployment, it was wild because every major said the same lines over and over again. So I would repeat them back to them.
Because you're training.
Yeah, but I also I could communicate with them because I was using literally a cut sheet that was weird things majors said, and it was long pole in the tent, slap the table, pin the rows on, it goes on.
What's the long pole in tent mean?
Long pole in the tent means project management. It's this is the critical path.
Okay.
That's the one
That's the long pole in the tent.
Yeah, you can't set a tent up without a long pole.
So most poles have multiple long poles.
True. Where do you start? You could start on the small poles and then long pole. Everyone's seen what happens with that, though.
Okay, so you have to. Theoretically, though, there is that first long pole.
Yeah.
I think
you've been in the circus. You were in the circus. You understand.
Our current GP. Well, yeah, but that was a different time, and I was way more bearded back then.
You were an armor officer back then.
Right.
Got it.
Well,
Got it.
But our current tent setup has 3 long poles.
It does.
So
3 critical paths.
How would you?
3 points of failure.
Do you say don't be the third long pole in the tent?
I think you just use an air beam at that point.
Yeah.
You switch. Maybe a drash.
There's no way to prioritize the current
we
setup.
Can't prioritize that.
Can't
Let's throw it out. Use a drash instead. Easy day.
But that's not really a grammar thing. Those are just military.
Oh, grammar. What's my grammar?
Yeah.
Hot topic?
Somebody says, "Oh, I feel good," and then you say, "Well," you feel well.
Yeah. So it is me, right? That is improper English. It should be it is I.
Yeah.
I is it.
Okay.
When you say who is the person who lost all that equipment, Logan, you would say not it is me. You would say it is I.
It is I.
Yeah.
Which sounds even better.
It sounds better. Yeah.
More proper.
It sounds like there has to be an exclamation point.
Proper-er.
On that.
Yeah, more proper.
Yep.
Which my daughter keeps saying gooder. And I say, yep. That's right. You just keep rolling with that because I don't want to have to go into that all the time.
Send it.
Right. So you
don't touch the.
So Doug McFarland currently working in the G5 shop at the division headquarters, which is awesome. I can imagine. I always thought to myself, if there was a position or shop that I would want to work in, it is not that one. So
I was waiting for it. Here it comes.
Well, it's simple. I don't want to drag that on. But what has been you're the G3 and the G5, the operations and the planning cells, virtually work hand in hand. And I think that's how we have it set up currently. But what is a takeaway that you have that I don't think people get to see that you think is actually advantageous to working in the G5?
To work in the G5?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the most advantageous thing is learning about strategic communication. So most of our things we produce, obviously the time horizon we're on is deeper than the 3 shops, especially the chops or 3.3 or 3.5. We're talking things that came down the pipe that are a year out, maybe 18 months out. And a lot of it, we are working with the commanding general or a deputy commanding general to shape how we're going to communicate it to both the higher headquarters who's tasked us with mission set, how we drive that communication back to them, and then how we communicate that down to subordinate units, and then helping the commander, usually taking a visualization, so in SAMs, the first elements we talk about are understand, visualize, and describe. Our job is to help the commander do that. So the thing I didn't expect would be the most rewarding was actually just in whiteboard sessions with General Roan or one of the DCGs and whiteboarding, helping them understand a problem set. So the product we create should be helping a commander understand, and then we help visualize and describe. So that's been that was like something I didn't expect would be rewarding, but it's helping a very senior officer see themselves, see the formation, see the mission, and then take what they're thinking about and put it into a product or an order that has to be able to be communicated to his audience, which he's trying to communicate to battalion commanders,
Right.
field grade officers, organizational leaders. So,
Which kind of leads me to two separate questions here. The first being, how complicated, and maybe this is a simple answer, but how complicated did you think you had to go because you're thinking, wow, this is 2-star level now. I've only ever done maybe 05 level thought, trying to just communicate. And I'm not saying that there's a huge difference, but there's a difference in what you're trying to communicate and where you think that you have to go to communicate versus what that kind of product ended up being. Because, when you say whiteboard, I'm not saying it's simple. Well, sorry, the technique is simple, but you're still thinking through complex problems.
Yeah.
But, where you want to make this one slider that does the most, so where was that?
it's got to speak.
Yeah.
Well, the difference is, I think there's not a lot of differences. Like every man or woman has their own like technique, personality, characteristics. Like General Roan,
Right.
like specifically has characteristics that, that he's trying to focus on. And his, his first, like when we talked, his vision, commander's vision. We took us offsite Manhattan. We did have 1ID fights, right?
Yep.
Simple thought, nothing at rest. It means a lot as far as an organizational leader. Like it's simple thought process. But when you have a commander who can describe something like that, or describe a broad intent, that's helpful. And he's a fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's his mentality, personality. So really, it's not about, I think, the level or rank, just understanding a guy. Like if you had something, I would know your personality, which is like ad hoc, no systems, aggressive. Like that's what I would do. So I'd be
Lovingly
like,
endearing, but whatever.
yeah.
We'll get that.
So I would
next
say
on the
like you're
second
more of
hand.
an artist. Like your palette of paint, may change every day. You're
does.
not like an Einstein like sorting kind of guy. So like I would try to produce something that both like spoke to you, but then I have to accommodate maybe for your, like you are an artist. I've got to find a way to communicate that.
I feel like this is insulting almost.
No, I don't know how you would. No, this is all this is all a very large compliment. But the bottom line is like people are people, different ranks, but like helping someone communicate a thought. And I think it's clear when it's like my audience is X. This is what I think, and then I think, we have lots of tools. I would recommend a book like Back of the Napkin. Like we've talked about this before, but Back of the Napkin. There's 2 pages in there you need to tear out if you're a company or field grade. And they show like what is the problem you're trying to show, and here is like if you're answering like let's say a how to do something, how it's always a flow chart of tasks, or it's like a what or. But yeah,
What page numbers are those? Just
I
in
want to
case
say like
somebody's-
262.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you. I think
Okay.
it's 262.
262. Just rip them out. That's a
Tear
front
it
and back.
out. Yeah.
It could be 263, 261, but either
Yeah.
way, 262. Rip that out. Okay, got it.
You can't audiobook that one. I tried. Trust me, I
and
tried.
it's just not
You
because there's
can't,
too many visuals.
Because it's about.
So it's a good bridge between
Yeah.
a picture book
Yeah.
and a novel. Got it.
My first book at Sam's, I failed to do that. Okay. Shouldn't have audiobooked that one. That's my bad. It's about drawing.
Sometimes you got to get
You
the
got
paperback.
yeah.
So then my second question with that is, we have all, with the minute you go down to a battalion or brigade, which you'll find out soon, you always feel as if the division is not, they're just not even giving me what I need. They're never far enough ahead for me to plan. And I don't think that's true. I think and I don't know if you would agree with that. I just sometimes think that they should be doing more than what they think that they need. So how do you communicate with that, or how would you kind of argue against that or for it to say we're not doing enough for the battalion's field grade officers, but really you feel like
I'm not getting enough or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a narrative that we all inherit as commissioned officers, where we go. Like we're always in the position where someone's telling us what to do and we're telling someone something to do. Like we're always in this position. So you can also like you could close your eyes right now and say you are a brigade 3 and you already know who you're going to have a gripe with.
oh,
It's
yep.
probably up and down. I mean,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
I
Like
can see his face.
and you can't solve everyone's problems. But the way I see it as like commissioned officer, I use a term broadly. I don't say like branch specific.
Right.
It's like our job is to build relationships up and down, left and right. So like a tasking might come out, or let's say an operations order is produced by the G5, published through the G3, goes down. It's tasking brigades to do a lot of things. you know, that shouldn't be the first time that one of our 2 Brigade 3s has, you know, seen something. Right. If it is, I'm not doing my job. Yeah. There should have been a long discussion, or at least like a warning, a heads up, a chance to respond, other than through an official reclama. And I think that goes both ways as well. Like when we were in NTC, I worked with a 3-corps planner every single day. Every day we had a conversation, you know. So I knew well in advance, and I could prepare my organization for what was coming or what we needed.
Whether or not the order's coming. So you're saying the system that we need to practice is ensuring that this communication is happening throughout. Rather
we should be bleeding across organizational lines constantly. That's how I feel. I think that is the way we smooth the process out. Otherwise, if it's a concrete, like division to brigade to battalion, without that constant communication or flow, like you're going to have friction, you know.
Here's a critical question for you then. Which brigade does that best?
I think the Devil Brigade is the best. Are these on? This is the Devil Brigade.
I'm going faithful foreshadowing. Yeah, you just found out. Yeah. Where are you going?
116.
That's exciting to be the which position?
Iron Ranger 5.
Oh, awesome! Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Just released relatively recently, so that's awesome that you figured it out, and you'll be on mission here coming up. So that's exciting.
Yeah, shortly. Yeah.
And hopefully that goes well. We'll have to bring you back in to see what that transition was like.
Sure. It'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to.
Well, it depends.
We could do our teams maybe, like you know. You guys are deploying, so you're like, no, we're not. This setup is
this is the setup.
Here.
Yeah, this is great. We put a lot into the dictionary that's behind us.
Have you read this plaque out loud to the group?
I have not.
Real quick.
No, I don't think we should do that.
Major Logan Bridgeford, Devil S1. I guess this plaque is supposed to thank you for your words of encouragement and how you did at your job. I'm not really sure what you accomplished, but here's a gift to thank you for it.
Let's stop that.
I'll stop.
We can't. That'll be
Stop being a dumb.
Okay, well, I said stop.
Okay, sorry.
You should have listened.
Sorry. But great plaque.
It is great. It's probably it's actually the only one I've ever hung up.
It's like top 3 plaques I've ever seen. It's number 3, obviously.
Because they took the time to really get to know me as a person.
That's how you communicate.
And really appreciate what I gifted back to the organization. So I think that was that was important. Well, you brought up NTC.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think I really wanted to dig into this because everyone has their own experience, and everyone thinks that their experience is the most important. We know that's not true, but yours was so unique in the fact that you went from being a G5 planner, just a generalized planner, one of the main planners. You actually planned I don't want to say the admin side of it, but virtually the administrative side of it. Even though you have had 0 experience with NTC, but you have experience being an officer, so that's important.
Yep.
So then you were told to go be the division chops.
Yep.
Now those are 2 vastly, everyone thinks, oh, it's operations. You're all right. You're going to figure it out. Mm-hmm. What were some of the challenging, chops being the current operations person, so running the minute by minute fight whenever you're on.
Yep.
What was the biggest kind of shock to doing that? Like, not foreign to the idea of doing that, but, to where your comfort zone was and where you were at, to then boom, like 1 hour later, you're having to do this.
Chops, welcome. I'll give you an example here. I think situational awareness, like gaining and maintaining situational awareness of subordinates, and we had 6 enabling formations on top of our division task organization. So there was a lot of players involved, but just like gaining, maintaining situational awareness and having a common operational picture between command posts. Like simple, like it's simple, right? Like what I just said is simple.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean it's just have situational awareness of what's going on, obviously.
That's what the OCTs kept saying.
Yeah, it's like
just have it.
Just have it, just do it, do the thing. Found that to be like, just quite challenging. And I think, we were in, I think, the mix of, we had some new kit. We had Armored Future Network on the Move, which is basically, we had a Chimera Star Shield. So we had excellent upper TI capabilities in the command posts.
Right.
Excellent. And we got a lot of information out of that. But I think we were so open, and we had probably a headquarters setup where the people who were gathering situational awareness is about 3 people,
Right.
And I think we struggled. I struggled for sure. Like that was my first, I was like, wow, this should be easier. I feel like
and there's just so much data coming in all at one
Yeah.
point. Even, I mean, as a simple G1 person that's just worried about people,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, you're worried about what I'm worried about because you have to be, maybe not directly, but indirectly. And then you're worried about all the other big players, which is aviation, fires,
Yep.
intel,
Yep.
those three,
Yeah.
we can kind of say maneuver, but as a wise man once told us, they're gonna ABCTs are gonna do what they're gonna do. They're the battering ram for the division. So you have to worry about it. Especially, I guess that kind of mattered on the offense. Like that's when you get that fourth one, and it's a big deal. And because now that's another minute by minute update. Where in the defense, maybe it's not. It is because you are still concerned with establishing that.
Yeah.
So how was that? All that data that's coming in. Where did you think that was the most challenging to continue to maintain, like what the division was trying to accomplish?
No, for sure. I think the experience over time, like day one, everything is noise to me. Everything. I don't know what's a signal versus what's noise. What I mean by that is like the volume of information coming in, whether it's through, we have the fusion cell OIC is in our main, right? That's a new thing because our ace was fighting from the rear. So we had a fusion cell with some officers to support him. So we had a lot of information coming in, and he's feet away, right? And the JAGIC behind me, and then information being reported in through our battle NCO, battle major, right? So there's a lot of information coming in. I think over 8 days of doing it, from days 0 through 4, and movement to contact,
Sure.
which we also had, we had the tempo. We were in control of that fight. We were in control of that fight until we moved into defense, and then
Proverbial not you.
Not
but
me.
Yeah.
Not me.
Somebody
not me.
was definitely in control.
First ID, right? And then we set a pattern of behavior. I mean, you remember this when we were doing an out of contact attack with a cab every night. Every night.
Yeah.
For 96 hours, our cab was, I think it was 30K beyond the flot, free maneuver, right? And going after H-pidal targets. Like we were doing very well. And then he adjusted, off that pattern and just flooded the zone, I think, from the OSC, flooded the zone with air defense all the way up to our flot to where that.
You mean the enemy?
Yeah, the enemy. Okay. Yeah, the OSC commander. So at that point, that's when, the pattern adjusted. So now there's new data coming in, and now there's new signals versus what's noise, what's signal. I think that's the role of CHOPS, is figuring out what's important, and the commander plays a key role in that because he will tell you what's important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he will tell you.
He knows.
But you're a good CHOPS if you can anticipate that. If you can anticipate what he's thinking about. And I don't think, that was the thing I struggled with.
I think day 8 you finally figured it out. I think whenever you said complete, and we knew, we had a feeling index was coming.
Yeah. Crushed that last day, dude. Crushed it. Yeah.
Well, that did, I did get to watch fly on the wall, got to watch the progression. And I think, overall, obviously we did way better day 8 than day 1. Yeah. I think everyone has fought in a CP before for the most part. Everyone's been in a main, everybody's been in a talk or whatever, but no one's really handled a division CP before, which is something I always consider. Even General Rome's never fought a division in combat, and a lot of his peers have not actually fought a division. They've done CPXs in combat, but never a live, getting live units out there and having to do that in real time. And so, they've obviously deployed at multiple echelons. But to me, and I could be wrong, people can come on here and tell me I'm weird, but fighting a division is massive in comparison. And to really be able to echelon that fight, and you're only worried about the deep area, but that's a whole different fight in itself. That was something to kind of witness, and just kind of see all that come together. And realize it was really hard to kind of grasp. We're grasping at straws to figure out what we really needed to focus on, which really was everything.
Yeah.
Which was, then you need all the other field grades to step up and acknowledge that, which they do in that tunnel that they're working in. But then to break that habit and realize, hey man, we also need to be listening all around. We're all, because we're all feeding.
Yeah. No. And we had this discussion, you and I did, and also, you were the deputy CHOPS
For a time.
For 7 days.
Yep.
Out of 8. But there is with the desire to shrink the size of our command posts to disperse them, I think that's the mentality you have to have as a field grade officer. It's branch agnostic. If you're sitting in there, you need to have 2 to 3 jobs or be able to do more, right? Do more, so you can't just be, I'll use Luis Gonzalez as a great example, phenomenal officer. He's our med ops, OIC, but he's also
Shout out.
capable of so much other stuff. Like extremely hard worker, and I think that was probably an untapped resource that we had. Where I could have fed that plate. He's got a big rucksack, you could fill it up with more stuff. But that's the idea I think you have to have in that in the command post environment we have right now.
And I hate to say it, it's definitely personality driven and almost professionally driven.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you would hate to have somebody feel like they're stepping on your toes when coming over the top to help you, because it makes it almost, it's like a weakness. But really, it's a division weakness, not a you weakness, and we need the assistants to do all this extra stuff.
For sure. And I think a lot of us at CGSC are coming out, division as the principal tactical unit is the terminology now, not the unit of action, but the principal tactical unit. And I think the education that we have is that we do the deep fight. The division does the deep fight, right? Brigades manage we resource and shape the close, but the deep fight is ours. And I think we're all prepared for that, and we just simply managed DIVARTY, the CAB, and the DSB. But that changes, and what the learning point for me in TC was that I went with that mindset. Like, I'm just going to look,
past.
Right?
Yep.
That's really neat until one of your brigades is below 50% comp power, and you've got 5 BTGs in your division close.
And somebody asks you where we're at in resourcing them, and you're like, I was not where. Help.
Yeah, and that's when things get, and I think, dynamic, right? When we have an HPITL, we're targeting, strictly off this HPITL for this ATO cycle.
Right.
Conditions are going to change in that 24-hour period,
theoretically,
right? So, and I think that's where the friction does exist when we are oriented on the deep. There are times if you lose control of tempo and you lose control of the fight. I knew when we were as a division, I felt when we were we lost control, and that was when we had a brigade below 50% comp power, and air defense was pushed forward. Our CAB was ineffective because we couldn't shape for them anymore.
That was a bad night.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the division is thinking about the FLOT and just beyond.
No longer,
We're not shaping deep anymore, dude.
No.
We're preserving combat power now in the close.
I'm going to take you a different route here. So, what does the word shape mean to you? What does that? I know there's doctrinal, but what does that mean?
My instant answer.
Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't have to be by the book. You're right.
Right.
It's because I'm asking. But what does that mean?
Carving turkey for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Just one at a time. I'm shaping something.
So. Can you do shaping? Can you do if I was to say something? Okay, this unit's going to shape something for another unit in our close area. What does that mean?
I would probably describe it as an effect. What effect are we looking for them to achieve? If they're shaping something in our close area, are you thinking of the CAB?
I have a weird problem. So I'm walking into something here on purpose because I think you're shaping something for another unit to action on. But nobody else is actioning on in the deep. So when you're saying you're shaping the deep fight, you're not, because everything we're doing is actually shaping for the close, for them to actually do actions on in the close.
Yeah.
So why do we call it shaping the deep?
I think we're shaping the deep if for instance, if we have, let's say, an SA-17 or an SA-22 in the division close, let's say on the FLOT, we haven't done our job. Right.
You're right, because now that's the close. So you're not shaping the deep. You're actually shaping.
But we should be shaping those targets in the deep.
You're right.
So the close fight, those capabilities.
You're shaping it for the close fight.
Yeah.
Got it. You're shaping for the close.
There was obviously an SA-17 in a concrete pillbox at Granite Pass that was shooting down 9 Apaches per period of darkness.
Luckily, we had a battalion of dismounts take it out.
118.
Yeah, just crushed it, which was very important.
Yep. Yeah, that's the finale. Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's right.
So with so your dream was probably when you were 12 years old. I think you told me this in passing one day, to be in the military and to be in the G5, I think is what you told me. So you've actually accomplished your dream. One, I'd want to know what that's like, because I have yet to accomplish any of my dreams. But two, at what point in your life did you realize that you wanted to try the military? Or were you like me and it was kind of a roll of the dice and you had no other options? And what kind of guided you along your journey to be here?
Okay. My dad served. He was an infantry officer. He commissioned in '75, and he served for 8 years. He
awesome.
he did Was a Green Beret in third group fifth group at the time, and then did some team time. Got out, became a lawyer in Kansas City, and that's so. My dad always had stories about the Army. I didn't grow up in the environment, so I was always curious about it. And how did I end up in the Army? I didn't join the Coast Guard.
Oh,
That's
neat.
a
Well,
full-
being
yeah.
in Kansas City,
Well, I was a
huge recruiting from what I hear.
huge recruiting for the Coast Guard. But when you're 5'11", 305, not, that was me, football. Reality, in the book, if you go to the book right now.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to picture,
Yeah.
not 5'9",
I was
305.
wider, a little
Yeah.
wider.
Okay,
But-
5'11", you got some height to you.
In the book, I was 6'2",
Yeah.
305. Because you weigh yourself with, kit on.
Right, cleats.
Your height is your
Extra
helmet
high
on,
cleats,
obviously,
yeah,
right?
Because and then you
Yeah.
were just tossed
Yeah.
around.
So my decisions, my really in-depth decision was like the Coast Guard, which was a D3, came out and offered me to play both sides football. I was like,
No, they didn't.
yes, they did.
That's
And I signed for the Coast Guard. I was going to New London, Connecticut to be in the Coast Guard. That was it.
what changed.
What changed was once again, great, really long time thinking about decisions was the defensive line coach for Army showed up at my bowling class my senior year. He confirms I'm not 6'2", 305. I'm 5'11",
You went to a bowling class?
Yeah, Lifetime Sports senior year, second semester senior year. Yeah.
What's your average?
I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, it's all right now. But that day though, I had a couple, star frames. You know what a star frame is?
Nope.
You don't bowl enough.
No, it's because my average is like 95.
Okay, I was like 190
Actually,
day.
it's not my average.
Okay, yeah. Probably
Sorry.
60.
Yeah,
Your
something.
kids beat you with bumpers on. I get
Actually,
it.
my kids did beat me once with bumpers on.
Yeah. But anywho, he offered me to go to West Point, and so I did. I wasn't great at anything at West Point
To this day. Got it.
to this day. No. And then I was a squad leader at Buckner for a summer, and just in the woods with 2 girls, 7 guys. They were my squad, and we did light infantry, type of tactics, patrol-based operations for a month and a half, and I loved it.
And
I
infantry officer now.
Bought in.
Yeah.
That was it. Flip the switch. Once you're in charge or once you put in a leadership role and you're responsible for someone else, I have to be serious now. I am now responsible for someone else. So that's when, for me, I went from
Wow.
you know,
That's going to be, I think, your biggest transitionary thing for going down to a battalion. You're going to be in charge of people. you're going to have to be serious.
Serious.
This is why I'm an AG officer now. So, yeah,
Great.
a little bit you learned about me today.
as depicted.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what has been your favorite point? Don't choose now. You can't choose now. So, what has been your favorite kind of memory or point experience in the Army so far that whenever somebody's sharing that story, you're like, I got this story.
Yeah.
And that's where I share.
Oh, that's great. I don't use the term joy often, but there's been a handful of times I've experienced full joy. One of those was the first time I installed a fan in my daughter's
ceiling
room.
fan.
Ceiling fan. Old house, old wiring, the
Yeah.
duct or whatever it's called, I don't know
Installation on the wiring. You touched it.
words. But I got it to work. Called an electrician buddy. Got it to work. It turned on. I felt joy.
Was it off balance?
Sorry,
My
this is
first one
involved-
was off balance.
It made a sound on the third high setting. You heard the voltage.
So you just kept it on medium.
Low, like a soft, low. It's a handful of moments I felt joy, and I hold on to these memories quite a bit. I did a coordinated loom mission as a mortar PL with a 60 section, 81s, 120s. We did it all off the plotting board. We did it analog.
Oh, wow.
It took us 45 seconds to compute it, and we shot it, and it was the wildest thing you've ever seen. It was in negative 15 degrees at Fort Drum. I was there with my FTC chief.
I can feel that. Yeah.
Literally, if you imagine it, coordinated loom is where you're adjusting illumination, right? So the observer is marking, he's spotting when the loom is perfect to see the target. So you're doing that. So we worked that with 120s, and then we used 60s and 81s with HE to hit it. So every time it spots, you had a 60 section who had to have rounds on, and an 81 as well, rounds on. Different sections.
Within how long of that loom?
It's got to be within a couple seconds.
Okay.
So
Wow.
we're adjusting multiple sections. So the FO is adjusting multiple sections, but it's got to be in that moment of when that height of burst is perfect for the loom, and we pulled it off. And I felt that was I got out into the snow and cursed a lot.
Why does that
Yeah.
matter?
Why does that matter?
Not the cursing part.
Okay.
But why does it matter? So like it's an indirect firing machine. Why does it matter if there's a light on it or not?
Why does it matter?
Yeah.
God, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, you really cut me down. Like, I just got vulnerable with you, and you just
the idea would, okay, so in my head, sorry, I'm walking through this partly one because I want you to explain it, partly two because maybe I don't understand fully. So let's say we're shooting this, and you're yards away, meters away, probably seconds away.
We're talking like 4K out.
Right. So like,
sorry,
but you know that's
probably,
here.
Probably 2K
like
out.
if you're on target, somebody is telling you, I have something at this location.
Yeah.
Right? Why do you need a loom as a mortarman on that target?
You don't.
Okay.
You don't.
But it's still, I mean, I get like the training aspect of it. Like that's fine and that's cool.
Just to be honest, we made it like, what's the most complicated fire mission we could possibly run right now?
Well, now I think about it, like there's you have indirect, but there's also people with direct fire assets that need that loom, or that would be helpful to have it. Hopefully not, because we have stuff to see at night. But
there's also you can use IR loom as well.
Okay.
And that's it looks in the sky like purple.
Yeah.
That's the heaviest round we have for 120 is like 47 pounds, I think. We were using regular loom.
Are you good with that? Like, is that too heavy for you?
When you're shooting IR loom charge 4, you feel like that's a big round, dude, going off, and it's like, it's why my memory is not great, probably.
Okay. Which is good. Good thing to admit now.
Yeah, good.
So
joy, right?
Mortar PL.
You get these feelings, like you probably had a couple of these as a, Take XL.
I do. I have. Well, yep. It's
Well, in battalion, that's 1 kill, JRTC.
I do have one.
Right.
Actually, it's 3 kills, but I was the only one with the ammo. So long story short, carry your ammo at a CTC. Otherwise, you can't kill anything.
Yeah.
My one quickly. It was we had a terrible night run. Just the tank was not cooperating. Our CITV went down. Like we were supposed to, and we were supposed to actually use it. Like it wasn't a manual engagement. Like we could have used all the sites that we had, but it went down, and we elected to still shoot our last engagement without it because my gunner was amazing. He had actually one working eyeball too. That's a true story, and that's how amazing it was. But anyway, before that, we ran out of Sabo rounds, and Sabo rounds are we had one Sabo round left, but it was like we wanted to save it for the dual engagement. And so mine was the long-range mover, and usually with an inexperienced TC, you use the Saber round because it's a little bit more accurate. You just like don't add any extra to it. And we had to use a heat round, and at least they made it seem like it was a big deal. But it was like a 1600 like moving target, and I hit it, so I was like really excited. It's like it's like just
That's awesome.
small little thing.
To be honest, it's the moments of joy that kind of propel you to keep going.
Yeah.
You keep going. It's like, and also those moments of joy, they're never great times.
No.
They're never like
in
conditions
that moment,
were perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the tank was it's like overheating. It was really hot. I hated it. It was like 4 a.m. too. So it was just like, like we almost might have to wait another 24 hours to finish our night engagement because of maintenance reasons. So we would have been able to do that. At least back then you would have been able to.
It's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It was so cool, and that's why now I'm an AG officer instead of an arm officer. That one experience.
Tracks.
So what are you looking most forward to? What are you looking most forward to as you go down to be a battalion?
I think for me, it's been the last time I've worked directly with soldiers has been a minute, because I was an SFAB team leader before this, so I had all NCOs,
right.
And so I haven't been in a battalion. I mean, since I was a troop commander, so you're talking like 2013. I'm just kidding. No, it's like like 2019, 2020. So it's been a minute. I'm looking forward to it.
It does. You say 5 years ago in terms of the Army, it doesn't seem like that long, but to be separated from soldiers, in a formation like that for that long, that's a long time.
Yeah. You know what? I think about this a lot. When I was at IBOLC, HR McMaster was the MCOE commander.
That's right.
Right.
He came to talk to us.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, we were the same kind of timeline.
Yep,
That's right. You used to be cool. Got it. Ooh, I'm learning from you.
I mean, you're here today, sitting down talking, so it's your fault.
Okay. I remember I was sitting behind HR McMaster at Doughboy Stadium football game. You remember? Doughboy Stadium? Yeah.
I remember.
And I was a brand new second lieutenant. And 5'9", just
5'11", excuse me.
Sorry,
Still
5'11" and a half.
275 now.
Just shredded. No, to be honest, probably. I was a big cat. I could run fast, but I was still a big cat.
Still don't understand it.
Yep. I don't either. But I remember a line of, they brought in base trainees from Sand Hill to come to the game.
Yeah.
They were all lined up, like they're all 18-year-old kids. You know, they're all lost. They're just following the guy in front of them. And I remember hearing him say, like, he saw him, he's like, God, those kids just fired me up. A bit like in a positive way. Like he's just inspired by looking at 18-year-olds. And at the time, I'm like 23. I'm still like a,
Yeah, that
shitty
you don't
lieutenant.
understand.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, what's this guy's deal? Like, I don't understand, like how he's like, it's a bunch of privates who are like lost following their NCO. Like, I don't get it. But like now, like I am coming to a position now where it's like, when I see like brand new kids in formations, even if they're messed up or like they're working through stuff, like I get fired up when I am looking at the newest 18-year-olds that we have.
I don't think, and I think it's because of where you're at. Because as a lieutenant, you're not doing the same things. Like you have an appreciation for your platoon, which is great, but you don't truly appreciate the amount of collective sacrifice, for lack of a better word, that these individual soldiers go through on a day-to-day basis, which is, because you always hear about the 10% that aren't fun to deal with, but there's a huge 90% that are out there doing their job, and it's remarkable. And I think, the higher you get away from the front line, if you will, of the soldiers like doing the daily work, you realize, man, they are working hard. Like and they're out there and they're doing all, and you appreciate even more because, as a infantry PL, you could probably care less about things. Like you just wanted to be fed. You didn't care about the people who were feeding you because you were cold and you were hungry.
Yeah, I didn't care. Yeah.
Right. But now you're like, well, hey, that's a hard job too. Like those people are the first ones up, last ones down because they're making sure they're taking care of all these people across the formation, which is also pretty remarkable. And I think it's people don't like to focus certain communities don't like to focus on other parts of the Army like that.
No, for sure. No, absolutely. And I think the key message for like 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds who are like joining first is like, and I think your example is great too, right? It's like there comes a point when the job that you signed up for is not the job that you want to do, right? You see different options. And I think what we do a poor job of, especially in the infantry sometimes, is that like you're either with us or we're kicking you out.
Yep.
But it's like if you have soldiers in your formation who are just like, they're just not cutting it or they're not motivated, like whatever they're doing, they're not inspiring them and they're dragging the formation. It's like usually we look at them and they're like, what's the land speed record where I can get this guy to the front gate out of this formation as fast as possible? Mm-hmm. If you have a different lens, it's like, what is the best thing for the Army, the unit, and the soldier? Can we find another location to place him? Like for you, like you're good at AG. You know what I mean? You were probably
Thanks, man. It's the only compliment you gave me today.
That's
Thanks.
the last one you'll ever get. But like find something, and it's like I think it's our job. I think the one thing we miss out on, especially if I could go back, is that like there's a place for everyone. It may not be as a 19 kilo or 11 Bravo. There's other options. Like I put a guy when I was in troop command. Like every platoon, so we passed this guy around platoons, like unmotivated, just not great. And we just talked to him, and it's like, what do you like to do? What do you like to do in your spare time? It's like, I love to work on like my car. He wasn't good at it. But like he loved to work on his car and wanted to know more. Wanted to be an ace mechanic when he got out. He had the classic like kid, I've got a job lined up out of here.
Right. Yeah.
It's like my cousin knows a guy, I'm set. Like my job is set up when I leave there. And I was like, okay, let's rethink this. There are options like in the Army, And now he's a generator specialist today. Loves his job.
I'll leave you with one. So I had a soldier one time come up. It was his first day here on Fort Riley, and he don't remember his job. And that to the point of this story, it almost doesn't matter, even though it's exactly what we're talking about. But he came up and said, "How do I get out of the Army?" And I go, "Well, you just got here. That's so wild. Why do you want to get out?" He goes, "I was making more on the outside." And I was like, "Well, E1 probably could have been." But why do you want to get? I was like, well, I was making more money, and I got a kid now, and I need to take care of her. And I was like, is the kid not here? And they're like, no, they're here. Everything's good. I was like, do you know how? I was like, your health benefits though, right? Like you understand, you get a lot of things that you maybe weren't getting. I don't know what your job you had. Maybe you were getting like full-time health benefits. He goes, nope, I wasn't. I was just making more money. And I was finally like curious enough, like, what were you doing that you were making more money? And he left my office, and because he didn't want to answer that question. So I thought that was eye-opening.
What was he doing?
I don't know.
Okay.
He never answered.
Oh.
But obviously, I can imagine what kind of things you do to make more money out of the Army. And I don't know if he's still in, but I should probably check in on them.
Yeah.
To see
Maybe.
where that went.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming out today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Doug.
Yeah.